Hello, guys and gals, and welcome to the first ever episode of Ladder Character I Choose You, Necromancer. So this is about Pokemon, right? It's about Pokemon starter characters, because when you play Pokemon, the first thing you've got to do is you've got to go in there and you've got to pick your starter Pokemon, right? It's either Bulbasaur or Charizard, Charmander, or maybe it's Squirtle, or you get Pikachu, right? Right? No, wait, no, actually. This time, it's Barbarian, Necromancer, Assassin, Amazon, Sorceress, Druid, and so forth. And so, what ladder character are you guys going to choose for your ladder start? And that's what we seek to answer here. So today's episode is going to be about the Necromancer. The Necromancer is a very interesting choice for a ladder starter character, and it is a very good choice, in my opinion. There are a lot of different routes that you can take through the Necromancer trees, and he has a lot of abilities which can be extremely powerful in very limited gear situations. And that is really what it comes down to when you're talking about ladder. So the first thing that we have to talk about is equipment. Is our character highly equipment based? Okay, so this is the first question that I feel like a lot of people need to ask themselves when they're thinking about what character they would like to build for a ladder character. And the answer to that question is no. Necromancer is probably one of the least equipment-based characters in the game. You can effectively play a Necromancer just about naked all the way through up to Hell difficulty, and even through Hell difficulty with a little bit of trouble. And the very interesting thing about Necromancer is that they are extremely skill-based characters. They have a lot of skill-based damage in the form of Bone Spear. They have a lot of skill-based damage in the form of Bone Spirit, and these are magic damage attacks, which when you get to Hell difficulty as a sorceress or a druid or a paladin who is using a particular element, like maybe you're trying out Holy Fire, maybe you're using Frozen Orb, maybe you've got, you're a Hurricane Druid, whatever it happens to be, there will always be a monster that you're going to come up against that you're going to be unable to bypass because of immunities. And the beautiful thing about Bone Spear and Bone Spirit is that they're magic damage. And this is a huge boon to the ability to bypass immunities. We also have the ever so amazing Corpse Explosion. And Corpse Explosion cannot be undersold in any way, shape, or form. Corpse Explosion is a percentage-based damage off of the life of the monster that you have exploded the corpse of. So if you're fighting Pit Lords, it's 70 to 120% of the Pit Lord's health. If you're fighting little tiny Stygian dolls, it's 70 to 120% of the Stygian dolls. If you're fighting, Oblivion Knights, it's 70 to 100% of the Oblivion Knights HP. And since it scales in this way by always going off of the monster's HP, it always does a relatively good amount of damage. It is also 50% fire and 50% physical damage. And because it is two different elements, it is extremely powerful when it comes to taking out pretty much any monster in the game, because even if the monster is physically immune, you can still hit them with the fire damage. And even if the monster is fire immune, you can still hit them with the physical damage. And on top of this, you can combine Corpse Explosion with utility curses. And this is another amazing thing about Necromancer when it comes to starting, is that they are both good in a solo capacity by themselves, and they are also very good in a group capacity with other players. So we have curses, a lot of utility curses, right? So we've got Amplify Damage, which can literally break immunities and can be cast on just about anything, and it will amplify all physical damage that is coming in, and will also help Corpse Explosion. We also have curses like Decrepify, which are extremely good for crowd control, slowing down the monsters, making it so that they attack slower, they do less damage, they run walk slower, all these very interesting things that make Decrepify just an amazing ability. And that's one of the things that is really amazing about the Necromancer is just his massive utility. He also has skills like lower resistance, which can help out all the elemental damage classes. You can even break certain immunities like lightning and fire. You're generally not going to be able to break cold immunities, but lightning and fire are pretty easy to break for the most part. Lower resist will also break poison immunities and will help out any other character who has poison damage in your group, like for instance a Venom Assassin or perhaps a Rabies Druid. We also have other crowd control abilities like Dim Vision and Confuse. Dim Vision and Confuse are absolutely amazing for the process of just holding down monsters and making it so that they can't really fight back. When I originally started Diablo 2 Resurrected, I chose Necromancer as my starter class. And one of the things that I did to be able to enable us to go and get our Anya quest in Hell difficulty was I used Dim Vision to curse all the little glomes, and they couldn't do anything. All you had to do was just make sure you were spamming Dim Vision off the screen, and they can't fight back. Dim Vision and Confuse are absolutely excellent for crowd control situations. And then on top of that, they also have Life Tap, which is literally the holy grail of the life restoration abilities. And when you finally do get to the Ubers and you're trying to fight Uber Mephisto, Uber Bale, and Pandemonium Diablo, Life Tap can be absolutely amazing to help your melee characters get in there and kill things before they have access to things like Exile, Dracools, or Last Wish, which all have Life Tap or various things to proc the effects, right? So, if they don't actually have an ability to proc Life Tap, this can come in extremely handy for that purpose. You can also just simply cast it in advance so that they don't have to, suffer while they're waiting for their Life Tap to proc. And then once the Life Tap does proc, then you can go on to, doing your own little Necromancer thing. The other interesting thing about Necromancers as a starter class is that they have an army, right? So this is something that is both useful to you as a solo self-found Necromancer and is also useful to everyone else who might potentially be in your latter group. Having just a massive army of skeletons, of revives, golems, mercenaries, and all these various things that are going to be useful to your group is just a huge number of tanks, right? They're absorbing damage. And at the start of a ladder, when everyone is weak and everyone is under-geared and they don't have enough defense, they don't have enough resistances, and they don't have enough of, just about anything that they could possibly have, having a huge army of skeletons to be able to hide behind and utilize as a distraction while they are trying to dish out their damage is just an amazingly awesome ability. And when you combine all the different things about Necromancer, the utility of the curses, the amazingness of the corpse explosion, the bone spear, the bone spirit, and even the poison tree, if you want to go down that particular tree, and even the summons and the tanks and all this very interesting stuff, and then you can even throw in the bone prison and the bone wall, which actually do come in really handy for crowd control situations. Believe it or not, bone prison can be used fairly effectively to lock down Ubers. I've seen it done. It does have to be a relatively high level bone prison, but it does work. And while they're locked down, you can just wail on them. All in all, I do feel like Necromancer is one of those very interesting classes that does extremely well in a starter situation, even completely naked, which is the reason why I called my Necromancer Naked Mancer, because I feel like the Necromancer is just this very interesting class that can do well with literally nothing on. And the other interesting thing about Necromancer is their equipment tends to be very specific to them. So things like Trangul's Wing, the like wands like the Arm of King Leoric, and the White Wand, which is extremely easy to make, a rune word. If you're interested in it, is a very good rune word that you can make relatively early on. There are a lot of items that are very specific to Necromancers, and because of this, their gear tends to be a lot easier to come by. So not only do Necromancers tend to be extremely easy characters to play because the gear is not necessary, but as you go forward, you will find that the Necromancer tends to be an extremely easy character to gear up, because as you go forward, you can pretty much take any piece of equipment that nobody else wants. When a really nice wand drops on the ground and there's no other necromancers in the group, you're usually the one who's going to get it. When a really nice necromancer head drops on the ground, you're the one that's probably going to get it. When a really nice, like Necromancer circlet, or like Triangle scales, there are a lot of different items in the game that are very specific to the Necromancer and just get kind of tossed at the Necromancer on a regular basis, which makes them extremely easy characters to gear. And of course, there are items like Triangle's claws, which tend to be universally sought after, as well as Triangle's girth troll belt. But just in general, I feel like when it comes to the Necromancer, as a starter character, you will find that it is extremely easy not only to A, level up your character, B, do well in a group, C, do well solo, and D, did I already cover D? And D, you will be extremely good when it comes to magic finding as well. So, the one downside, I think, to the Necromancer is that he is a bit slow. You have to adopt a different style of play with the Necromancer. It is not about teleporting everywhere and skipping over everything. With the Necromancer, it is about slowly clearing things, killing stuff as quickly as you can, but it's still a matter of a slow and steady slog. You have to rely on your minions to distract them away from yourself. You do have to make kills to allow yourself to use the corpse explosion, and there are many different ways that you can go. You can build your skeletons strong enough that they can protect you, but not strong enough that they're actually good enough to kill anything, and then you can focus on things like Bone Spear and Bone Spirit, or you could focus on Poison Nova. You can go with a very basic Amplify Damage curse. You could also go with Decrepify or Lower Resist. And very interestingly enough, because Decrepify and Lower Resist are very far down on the tree, a lot of the times you will find a head, usually with 1 or 2 sockets, that you can utilize relatively easy early on to gain access to Lower Resist and Decrepify without having to put any points down the tree to get to them. Which is also extremely nice. The Necromancer, just in general, I feel like really does well in situations where he has nothing. And there are very few characters that I can say, right off the top of my head, that literally, if I walked around naked, I could still do well. And there has been many times on my Naked Mancer, my Necromancer that I play on a regular basis, that literally he's died from, maybe my girlfriend is talking to me and I die at some particular moment, I'm looking away and, I'm dead. And I will literally have to walk back to my corpse. And I don't just run back there and just click on my corpse. I summon an army. I use my mercenary to help kill things. I start corpse exploding, and I literally work my way back to my body slowly. And literally, even with no equipment, with literally nothing on except for the charms in my inventory, of course, I'm literally able to get back to my corpse successfully with absolutely no issue. Because that's the beauty of the Necromancer, is if you're paying attention, if you use your army correctly, if you hide behind them as you need to, if you you use teleport sparingly, usually on like an amulet or a staff of some kind, you can focus your army where you need them to be at the correct times, and generally you can just kind of stay alive even with no equipment. And the equipment that you do need on a Necromancer, or you do get, is actually so easy to obtain. One of the easiest ways to obtain equipment on a Necromancer is to buy it. Early on in the ladder, you can spend a little bit of time farming some gold, and you can spend a little bit of time going in and out of the shop in Act 2 with Drognin. And you can actually sit there and farm basically the perfect wand. It may take you a little bit of time, but if you manage to get lucky, you can go a little bit quicker. And basically what you do is you just go to Drognin, you take a look at the wands that he has for sale, and you look for one that has the plus to skills that you specifically will need. And what you want is you want one that has either a white base or 2 sockets already, and I do believe some of the lower level ones in this particular shop cannot roll 2 sockets, so do be careful with that. I think it does have to be a... I'm trying to remember. I think it's a bone wand. As you can see here, here's one with +3 blood golem and 2 sockets. Not exactly the right choice for us, but it is an interesting one nonetheless. And basically what you're going to do here is you're just going to walk in and out of the thing, and you're going to try and shop yourself a wand. And believe it or not, you will eventually find one that comes with the right skills that you want. Like here's one with +2 raised skeleton, a +1 bone spear, but that one is blue, so I can't make a rune word out of it. We have a couple bases here. I mean, if you walk in and out, you'll see there are a lot of blue ones, but generally if you come here at the right level, it's a little bit easier. I have noticed that in general, it's a lot easier when you're a lower level character to get the specific modifiers that you're looking for. But here's a nice one, +2 golem mastery, +2 skeleton mastery, which wouldn't do absolutely terrible for a low level character. And as you go along, you're going to pick up every single head, you're going to pick up every single wand, and you're going to look for those specific effects which are going to make your character stronger. And this is the kind of stuff that nobody really cares about. I mean, unless they're just selling them for money, nobody's really going to care about these wands. So, in retrospect, I do believe that Necromancer is an extremely strong choice for a ladder character. There are, of course, other choices, but this video is about the Necromancer. And I think I've made a pretty strong case for the Necromancer, and I would like to hear what you guys have to think of the Necromancer as a starter ladder character. One thing that we do have to talk about, though, that I don't think I went over, is group play. So every single character has 2 different ways that they can be played. Either solo self-found, which if you're a single character who's starting by himself in a ladder, that's called solo self-found. So you're not participating with any other team members. Nobody else is going to be helping you. You're going to get your equipment on your own. Maybe you'll trade with some other people, but for the most part, it is your own effort and hardship, essentially, right? Your hardship. But if you're in a group, it is something different, right? So if you're in a group with other players, how useful is your character to the group? How useful are the other characters in the group to you? And so forth and so on. Well, because you have such a large army that benefits from physical damage, things like concentration, might, fanaticism, all these things are going to help you immensely. Conviction will also help your army because it will reduce the defense of all the monsters, which will help your skeletons and revives have a higher chance to hit them. You will be very useful to your group because you have curses. You've got amplify damage, you've got decrepify, you've got lower resistance, you've got life tap, dim vision, confuse. All these things can be extremely useful to a group. You also have a large number of skeletons and things that can be useful to your group for tanking purposes. As we talked about earlier, because everybody is going to have absolutely terrible equipment, it's going to be very easy for you to help your group as a whole by having a huge number of monsters that they can hide behind. And in general, I feel like the Necromancer excels in both ways, and this is a very big thing. So the Necromancer excels in solo self-found. He does very good by himself. He can kill just about anything in the game just fine. He does have a little bit of an issue with Diablo and Baal in normal difficulty, and it has to do with the skeleton's HP scaling. It's not really his fault, but it can be bypassed, and I've done this before. In a group, he also excels. So we have a character here who does extremely well both in solo self-found and in groups, and I think this really makes the Necromancer an excellent choice. Because what do you do when you're in a ladder group and your ladder group isn't online? Well, you're not just going to stop playing because your ladder group is online. You're offline. It's a race. It's literally a race to 99. Everyone is trying to get there as quickly as possible, and you're trying to get equipment to help out your group. So even when your group is offline, you might be off magic finding or doing things by yourself. And this is a good character for it. He is capable of doing well in the group, and he is capable of doing well by himself. And I think this makes him an excellent choice as a ladder starter character. And I think that's pretty much it. The next episode is going to be on another class, and I'm going to cover every single class. So tell me which class that you're excited about, because maybe I'll pick that one as my next video, shall I? And anyway, as always, I do appreciate you guys and gals watching my videos. And as always, keep watching. Messed up my own outro.